Just somehow lets it clear that shit up and sticks to it.
We were training sex. Yeah. We were training that fall. Now, Michael. Yes. Team?
And it has like
Eight.
I'll put it on session 1. Can you see if they're on session 1?
I can. When did you guys say you were doing the Whiskey Bravo trip plan?
Probably the weekend after.
So that's like 5th. So there's only one left over there.
What's that?
There's only one left on the original, and actually me. Do they need to open the session 2 email?
Session 2.
Okay, cool. Catching. The rest of my guys are in Fairbanks.
Can I sit with you?
Yeah.
It looks way more comfortable. Thank you. I am Max.
Perfect.
I'm Christina.
I'm John.
John, nice to meet you. Great.
Right? Don't even know what you're missing. Careful from that. One of my buddies was just telling me you could see inside my ear. So, shift it over a little bit.
Wide lens. Can you, am I out of?
I can see the brim of his hat, that's all. You guys are great. You're fine.
I guess we're back. Yeah. So Chris and I were the next bullet point we had here was to go over like nutrition and hydration. It's kind of changed as well. It seemed like people used to just go the whole day and eat their meal at the end. The days are getting longer, and obviously nutrition, people are seeing the advantages to it. So a lot of it is staying ahead of the curve is how I see it. So what I eat on the trail it's very marathon type, right, is the goo packs. I like the goo pack and the block gummies. So how I do this is I have the goo packs that as Larry would say, as our entourage, if they have them as a pilot, they're warm. And on that checkpoint, like first one for us, Huntilla, even squinting already, I'm not hungry at all. I start getting that goo pack in me just to stay ahead of the curve of that getting like those hunger pains. You're gonna get them, but still, if you can stay ahead of it, it seems to be far better for me and a little caffeine. So I have a goo pack Squinta, goo pack and Puntilla, and then I've got personally I like they're a gummy block. I think the chop. I eat those as I can if I start feeling it, I'll pop those in my mouth and they can be frozen and I can suck on, and that like helps tremendously. Inevitably in the race, and you guys racing, you're gonna leave Roan, and this is me anyways, and you just are gonna hit like a dead spot. You're like, you're exerted, it's kind of coming down, you're no longer quite as exerted, and you're kind of moving through the woods, and you're gonna feel a little spent, you're hungry, you're, dehydrated. I personally, it's hard to, like I said, going back to that straw thing, try to get water when you can. There's days you go and I don't have any water.
Yeah, so I try to make it a point to, basically essentially all the checkpoints, like on the first day to McGrath, pro guys, there's gonna be essentially like a water station or hydration station there. So it works out pretty good. I personally highly recommend taking the extra time in a checkpoint. When you get to the checkpoint to drink something, potentially eat something, you don't necessarily have to eat it Tyler says if you had a plane following you around and they could give you just a bite to eat when you're there, take it. Roan is a perfect example. I mean, I've multiple times you get to Roan and it's like between Roan and Nikolai is a pretty tough, brutal section. It seems to take 2 or 3 times longer than you think it's going to. You get halfway across there and you think you should be done with it, and you don't want to look at the mileage because you've only made it halfway, and you're just like, man, I thought we'd be here by now. So it's a perfect place to grab a bite to eat if you're there. I mean, sometimes it seems like you're losing time by stopping and eating. I mean, but if you're, again, efficient, you can grab something, throw it in your mouth. Yep, throw it in your mouth and get going. And that little bit of time that you're wasting there, I think more than makes up for it in your ability to think, process, continue to go and make bad decisions. I think it helps with that.
Start thinking about, as Mike has offered, sending those care packages out. You're gonna probably lay over in McGrath. Load up on some food to get to McGrath. Have that stuff sitting out there already, have it ready, and you can replenish that. I mean, I'll be honest, my handlebar bag is it's like a little snack bag.
Yeah.
Trying to, anyways. If you're on the long days, you might eat 2 of those blocks and 3 of the goo packs on it, if I can.
I found the goo packs upset my stomach when I'm real athletic, but so I had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or peanut butter and honey sandwiches.
Yeah.
Because peanut butter won't freeze.
Yeah.
And so
That's
cut them in squares.
So that's a great point, is like any of this nutrition stuff, like, you go out there and some of like these honey-based protein bars or stuff, I mean, they will be like a rock when you go to eat it. So it doesn't work when it's cold out. So make sure you're getting something, typically something like if you're gonna do some kind of a protein bar or something, that's, typically like an almond-based or a, peanut butter-based.
And don't try something new like, oh, that looked neat, and I'm gonna try it on Iron Dog.
Yeah, so you want to get out there and kind of try it, because some of this stuff you can't, one year we, did some homemade, basically, we called them power balls, but little, peanut butter and some different stuff in them that, they were real easy. You could literally just grab one and throw it in your mouth, and they didn't freeze, and you could eat them really quick, so.
Keto dose, staying ahead of the curve.
For what it's worth, most of the hydration now, the checkpoints this year should be 12-ounce bottles or smaller. So if you're used to drinking a lot, you might, normally that big stuff.
Yeah.
It's all really tiny stuff this year, so you may think, oh, I need to.
Yeah. But I again, with the hydration, I get water at every single checkpoint, because you just don't know what's going to happen between that checkpoint and the next checkpoint. I mean, you could be there between, you break down, you could be there even longer. So.
And those small bottles are better because, well, for mature people, because you can keep them in a coat.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think that's the big thing is just, we kind of talked about the Camelbacks. I do carry a Camelback because that first day, I will actually put the thing in my mouth on the way up to Quintilla typically, and I'll be drinking on that thing all the way up there and keep myself hydrated.
And does it freeze on you? Because I've always had
I'll tell you what, you gotta have, it's a system. You gotta learn the system and try and train with it. We've tried all different kinds of stuff. We had, we originally did the prototypes for some guy up here that had all the electric one for the bicycle racers and stuff, and they worked pretty good, but I still just run a pretty small pack. It's inside as close to my body as possible, and, I have an Arctic hose and I keep it on the inside, and you have to make sure that tube is clear every time, and, usually if the plane is with us, I typically will only use it the first day, and that's the only time I use it. So that's just me. After that, I'll basically get rid of it, because I can replenish enough, and you're not as working as hard once you get after that first day. Second day is still pretty tough. Going from McGrath to Ruby is still tough, but it's a much shorter period of time before you hit the
And
Yukon.
you blow back air through it.
I blow back into it every single time.
And that's a good point. So the crayon directions for this little setup, typically on the tech vest, you sew a pouch on the inside of the vest. The hydro pack goes on the inside of your tech vest, so it's closer, keeping warm, because if you put it on the outside, all that cool air will look in the vents will freeze it. And then you've got a insulated Arctic line with the handle back. And then what he's talking about is after you take a sip of the water or you're drinking, just blow back into, you can feel it filling up with air in the back, so you know the line's clear, because it's gonna freeze in that line.
So then do you not have to have an insulated line or it's still?
I do have an insulated line still. I just have like a just sort of thin insulated
Still
line.
need
But I
an
still,
insulated line.
you can get away with not having it as long as you blow back. But it'll, I'll still sometimes stuff will come back in there and freeze. And when it's really, really cold out, it's tough to manage. And then, like I said, if it freezes up, then I just get rid of it.
And no matter how hard you suck and how bad you want that water, it's not coming.
Exactly.
Here's it.
Anybody have any questions at all on nutrition or said, just test stuff out. That's the only way that you're gonna be able to do it. Figure out what works for you, what doesn't freeze.
Layover.
Yeah, race strategy. Let's talk about race strategy real quick. So I think that, as the guys that are doing pro class, I think that your intent, I think your intent should be to try and go to McGrath the first day. I don't think you want to try and stop any place closer than that. That doesn't mean that if something changes and you have to, your race is over. By no means does that mean that. But I think that you should have these strategies and thinking about where you want to lay over. But you also need to be very aware that things change real fast. So you also have to have kind of like this, plan A, B, C, D, and you can go down the list. I mean, things are going to change always. If you have a problem, that could dictate where you end up laying over. So, but I think for any of the pro class guys, I mean, your goal should be to go to McGrath the first day.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's a ride. It's a long ways, all the way there. Most trail class, I would imagine, everybody's planning on just going to Puntilla, so everybody hears.
Yeah.
Even that's a ride, right? That is, and that sets you up, and just so the advantage to that is, it's going to set you up in that day two to be moving through Sally Ford in the daylight. Yeah. So it's a good thing that probably go with that. Beyond that, strategy, you're going to see most of that's where you're processing all this, watching storms, watching weather, kind of knowing what's what, trail conditions. Ideally, we're running from McGrath to probably Unity on day two, is where you're going to see most of the top teams try to go to.
Something to think about. I mean, that's definitely a good point. You're trying to go to Unity, but we kind of already hit a little bit how the Yukon changes everything between your dress and everything. Galena used to be the standard stop for everybody going north. That was the standard stop. In my opinion, personally, I thought it was actually the worst place to stop because you're in the middle of the Yukon, the coldest of all the villages there. In my opinion, it's not a great place to stop. Now, I say that loosely because the people are great there. It's a great place to stop, and sometimes it does make sense to stop there. Again, it just changes all the time. But to me, I would rather stop in Ruby, be prepared for the Yukon, or go to Caltag, where you're already prepped to run on the Yukon, and stop at Caltag, or go all the way to Unity, and then you're kind of fresh for the coast.
That's where you're going to process this. Like if you got into Ruby and it's flat, you can't see anything,
Yep.
I'm going to say I'm just going to stop right here now. I'm not worried about the cold.
Yep.
I'm going to be a lot faster at night. So I'm going to stop. I don't want to stop there. I want to get to Unity. Might take a long enough layover just to get dark, or that's where if you've been doing your research, maybe you know where the storm, the weather's doing, right? Maybe it's going to break. Is it going to push? Even with the trail class guys, you guys might find yourself riding at night occasionally. I wouldn't be, you don't see it a whole lot, but I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
There's a huge advantage to just running down the Yukon. It is massive, right? That thing is huge. And there's no definition out there, and if it's flat out, least at night, you might feel unsafe, but you're gonna see a whole heck of a lot better at night than you are in the day at a total flat out.
Yeah.
Where do you hang out in Ruby?
What's that?
If you stop in Ruby for a
There's
while,
some bed and
There's some
breakfasts.
B&Bs. It's actually got probably some of the nicest accommodations
Yeah.
of anywhere. Is that they got a couple of different B&Bs.
so you just declare a layover and then you go up to Katie's or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Yep. So,
So-
and they've always. I mean, they've taken the whole race class in 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, something to just be thinking about is just, when you get to, I prefer to, I mean, anymore, 20 years ago, you were faster in the daylight no matter what. With lights these days, I feel way more comfortable. If visibility is bad, I feel way more comfortable running at nighttime. So, you know, as part of your strategy, be thinking about that, you know, and again, sometimes it might not make sense to, you know, go and stay for 8 hours so that you get out at midnight, but it might make sense to, like what Tyler's saying, you get to the Yukon, or you get to the, or you run from Ruby to Galena, and it's flat light, and you're realizing that it's like, this is not good. That's when you want to lay over in Galena. Might be a couple hours or whatever till things get dark, and then you can take off again before it gets too late. So again, that's just some things to be thinking about. You know, again, weather plays a big part of that too.
And with that said, part of the strategy for you will be to keep up with the pack. I cannot state that strong enough, that you want to roll with the group. The checkpoints are set up with that group mentality. If you need help, it's that group mentality. Extra parts, pieces, other people at the layovers at the same time, someone else breaking down, but you need to harvest the machine for parts. Flowing with that group, they're going to say, the lead guys are going to want to be by themselves the day ahead. But the reality is everyone else trying to keep it with that group. And if that changes your decision, even in the expedition class, you say, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep in, you guys go with the group. I don't think there's ever been an example where that hasn't paid off.
Yeah.
You're gonna run into where you find, once you get going, you're gonna find a team that's compatible, and you're gonna go 1,000 miles and go, man, we see you guys all the time.
Yes.
That's kind of what you want to have happen. You want to find somebody you're somewhat compatible with. You may be different speeds, but you're gonna see somebody a lot for a long ways.
And
It's weird.
And weather condition depending is part of the strategy, and I learned this from Chris and Spurnack quite a while ago. Some of the stuff, if there's a big storm going, or there's a whole lot of snow, 2 people can't necessarily get a machine unstuck from a bad spot. And you team up, and there may be 3 teams, so 6 people total, all saying, we're doing this next 20 miles together, agreed, no one's leaving anybody. You best be at the end of the 20 miles to say, okay, we're going our separate ways, but that happens all the time, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, and over the years, that's something that's definitely changed from my first race until now. You know, back when I first started racing, it was literally every person for themselves and screw everyone else. I think a lot of people now, it seems like most people are friendly or will help. And sometimes it's almost, I mean, we've been in a position where there was 10 teams stacked up because of the snow or more. And if people aren't willing to help, no one's going anywhere. So you got to work together sometimes. I think that, you know, when it comes to fellow racers, you know, if you keep getting stuck, you know, I don't think you should be expecting anybody to come help you get unstuck. I mean, it's not really fair if they're going to slow down and help you. But that doesn't mean, like, if you're just off the trail and someone helps, you know, it helps them out. They're probably going to help you out the next time around. So, but if you continue to get stuck in front of them, I can tell you I've been that multiple times. After about the 3rd time, you're on your own. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, some people are, it's just not worth it. But, you know, but again, helping people out obviously usually goes a long way in the future. Other race, because there's going to be a point where you're probably going to need help.
And is there ever instances where like time is given back to a team?
There is.
towards-
So one of the things with Iron Dog is if you have, I mean, if there's like immediate life and death type stuff going on,
like when you were in the water and
Yes.
you came up on
that's
them.
a perfect example. Last year when we were talking about, we were in the water, these guys were the first pro class team, we were actually in front of them. They came and helped us because everybody else, they had, I stayed out on the ice, but these guys actually helped shuttle everybody back to White Mountain so they could get, you know, they were all wet and everything, shuttle them back. They got their time back. So it doesn't matter if it's a racer or a non-racer. If you see somebody in a life,
Well, you can't go past them. You
Yes.
read the rules.
yes, yeah, if you read the rules, if there's somebody that's in a life or death situation, you need to help them out. Iron Dogs, the nice thing about the tractors now they're gonna have a really good idea of how much time you spent if something like this happens. So obviously you want to, if something like that happens, you're gonna wanna get to the next checkpoint, get with the,
The other key is back what you said earlier, in range.
yep,
Here's the number to Jake, hey, we got, or whatever, team
Yep.
6 is injured and we stopped at this time, so they have their quarter, you'll probably get everything back.
yeah. So try and keep track of your time. Like I said, they're actually pretty good. Like even if you didn't keep track of your time, they can get a pretty good idea looking at what your times are compared to everyone else and looking at where you stopped and stuff like that. So
Especially if it's 2 and a half,
yeah, so don't let that discourage you from helping somebody. Also, same with like the etiquette, if you're broke down, don't just sit there and give no signals to anybody going by, because everybody's gonna slow down to like ask if you're okay. Give people the thumbs up as they're coming by. Give them the thumbs up. Let them go. They're racing. Let them get going. Yeah, so don't be a jerk. Let the people know. Just say, keep going. We're good. Thumbs up makes a big difference. Same thing if you're not in a true life and death situation and you have a broken machine down, don't expect everyone just to stop just to, that's not life and death stuff. It could be later on if you don't get out there, but, at the point where you took out a front end, it's kind of created your own little issue, not everybody else's issue. So, again, just kind of be aware of that. A little bit about, we kind of talked about that trail etiquette, like on the first day. There's some teams that are going to be really, really fast. It's the fast teams and the medium teams and the slow teams. You're going to get essentially almost everybody will get passed on that first day by the guys that are, even the fast guys will get passed by the faster guys. So unless you're Tyler, you're going to get passed. So, do yourself a favor and just let people by. I mean, don't try and hold people up. This isn't, when you're out there and you're training and stuff, like when I go out there and race, we're not racing at a different pace than we're training. We're not, all of a sudden, we're just these rocket ships that leave when we leave the beginning of the race. We don't just all of a sudden wick it up and start racing. We're riding at the same pace that we typically train at. So we try and do the same thing all the time. We're not doing anything different. We're not trying to, and then when the thing that happens a lot is everybody wants to become a racer when someone goes by them. All of a sudden, a team will go by them, and now all of a sudden they're going to start wicking it up and going faster. I can tell you right now, it doesn't work out. You want to race your own pace in this race.
That's even the expedition guys too. Don't get caught
Yes.
up in like getting in a race amongst the expedition guys and.
It's
Well,
huge.
I mean,
It's huge in the expedition.
Yeah, I think
Everybody wants to be the
something
first
happens
one.
there,
Yeah.
And if you had to put a percentage on your output, your speed output on race pace, what would it be? I mean, if a sprint race is 100%, Iron Dog is what?
Yeah, 70, 80% on the high side. And so, I mean, this race is in my opinion, the tortoise and the hare. I mean, you got to finish this race to do good in it, right? If you're out of control, my new teammate, he brings up all the time about how when he was sitting in the rookie workshop, I said, if you're out there racing and you start getting all these, oh crap moments, you're going way too fast. Because that means you're pushing yourself along that edge, and if you have too many of those, they're going to catch up to you and you're going to have an issue. When you're going around a blind hill or a blind corner and you hit something, everyone will say like, oh, just bad luck, there was a log in the trail. It's not bad luck, you were riding above what you should be riding because there was something in the trail and you didn't see it because you were going too fast. I mean, that's, you got to ride at your ability. I think you need any racer that's starting out, Larry put it in perfect perspective. Finishing this race is a huge accomplishment for anybody, for a rookie that's running this race. I think that if you look at trying to do this race as competitive and trying to be a first place team, it takes a lot of time, energy, money, everything to be a top place team. And to try and run with the guys that are running at the top, you're going to end up having problems, not finishing the race. You got a lot of time, money, and effort into this. The way to learn this race is to finish this race, and your goal should be to finish this race above anything else. I think that if you're doing yourself a disservice by not finishing this race. Like I said, you've got a lot of time and effort into this thing. And you finishing this race and seeing the checkpoints, I mean, there's so many, just going in and out of the village is a dynamic all in itself. And you're not going to learn that by scratching out on the first day. we've seen it over and over again, not so much in the last couple of years, but the very first day, like I said, everybody, you know, you got your nerves going for you. Everybody wants to go out of the starting line, shoot, and, you know, full throttle. And, you know, I don't remember, there was 3 or 4 years where guys scratched before the end of Big Lake because they freaking wadded up. And that's not a joke. I mean, that really happened. So, I mean, everybody just hauling ass. And, you know, when you go out of there like you've trained all year long. Don't do anything different. You don't need to all of a sudden run a pace that you can't comfortably run.
And like we talked about, don't get caught up with the locals racing because they're going to blow by you.
I guarantee you that probably will happen, and we've had it happen multiple times. I remember one time when Tyson and I were racing. I mean, we weren't exactly slow, and we got passed up by some locals doubled up with, you know, sealskin hats on, and we were just like, what the heck just happened? So, yeah, don't get caught up in racing other guys either. I'm telling you right now, that is the number one. That will be a number one reason that'll end your race right then and there. You'll start playing around in people's snow dust when you shouldn't be. When a team comes up on you, they're going faster than you. You know what? If you feel comfortable follow them for a while. And if the time is right and you feel like they're slowing you down, yeah, pass them up. But don't start playing these screw around games trying to race someone. Like I said, all of a sudden when someone passes you, you become the Ricky Racer, and then you're going to pass them up right back. And like I said, it usually ends up being bad for somebody. And you might take somebody else out, and it's not fair to them. Everybody's got a lot of time and money and effort into this race. So, you know, be aware and be respectful of everybody that's out there, including non-racers.
Rookie moment. Did you hear that? It's going to happen. Do not get sucked in that vortex day one. Do not get on the way to Squintina, balled up on the side with your expedition class or a pro. It will happen. It happened to us on the 4th time I was running. And it just happens because there's all the hype. You've been sitting in these boring meetings for days on end. You're wrenching. You waited 8 hours to get one bolt to be able to put your machine together. You're ready to ride. You go, and you get sucked into it, and then you do a stupid thing, and it will ruin the entire race for you. Yeah. So, I'm telling you again, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It ruins your race. Ruins your race.
This is probably a great place to interject. So, we're going to have this, and it's going to come to light probably more ever, is on the 20th, going into Nome. If timing is correct, we're going to have expedition riders going from White Mountain into Nome. We're going to have pro class coming into Nome, and the whole reason to try to get this to happen is because we're starting to get acknowledged in Nome as a real event. So you're going to get blown off the trail by the pro class as an expedition team going in there. And I think what these guys said is be cognizant. It'll probably scare the shit out of you the first time it happens, but just settle down because you're gonna think you think you're going fast at 65, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa! You're like, holy crap, what was that? But that's probably going to happen this year a little bit. So just be cognizant when you get to Koyak and White Mountain, there's probably going to be some pro teams coming behind you.
And there in the commentary too, as they said, they're running the race at 70% of their capability normal, but they're averaging it at 50 plus miles an hour. Every time they stop to gas at 0, there had to have been the equal amount of time at 100 or triple the time at 75% of that. So don't try and pull that off your rookie year. It ain't going to happen. You're going to screw it up and ruin this awesome dream you've got about having a good race.
So look at the stats from last year. This is what happens. People get so caught up in their, it's going to settle out here. They're going to settle out. Look how many people scratched right up to McGrath last year. And then there was virtually no scratches after. Nothing after. It's because everybody got caught up. What was there, 10 teams? They all got caught up in the hype. It is unreal. I mean, watch it. Being in the front, you can, being a veteran, that's probably one of the biggest things you learn to not get caught up in the hype. I got caught up in the hype for 10 years. I'm figuring it out in my later years how to not. We get people around us, even to this day, I'm as competitive as I can be. I had people last year that were trying to race with us, time-wise we were ahead of them. They wanted to battle with us. Let them go. Guess who beat them to the next checkpoint? After we let them pass, we still beat them there about 5 minutes because they don't turn back. Just like that's, they get pissed still. excited, you get caught up in the hype, and you're gonna, it's easy to sit here and tell you not to, but
If I have it timed out right, we should have 80 sleds coming into Nome all on Tuesday afternoon. So, and you're gonna go right down Front Street, so.
So, yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like, one of the first years I raced with Matt Spurnack, that was a big thing. We were going, this team that was way faster than us just kept blowing by us, and the next thing you know, 2 miles down the trail, they'd be blown off the trail, and then we would go by them. And then next thing you know, they'd come right up on our tail again. We'd let them go by, and literally a mile again, they're freaking blown off the trail, and then that goes all the way until they ripped off their front end. So I mean, that speed didn't give them anything. You got to basically ride on your abilities. Every time that you're working on your machine, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just like what Larry was talking about, time-wise, what it takes speed-wise to try and catch back up to someone, it's impossible. It becomes impossible. So not working on your sled, being efficient in the checkpoints, that's where you're going to make up your time. You're going to make your time up by actually going slower and not having a problem. It's actually
nearly,
faster.
right at nearly 50 miles, almost 60, I think at times, is your average, right, minutes a mile. So every minute you're longer doing something, you're giving up a mile. So you start putting on the trail. So you're more efficient at 30 checkpoints by 1 minute.
And what
30
was your-
seconds, 15 minutes,
And
right?
what was your guys' wrench time the last couple of years in Nome?
A minute.
Because they're not wiping out, because they're not getting caught in the height, doing rookie maneuvers, running into trees on the trail. Mellow on that first day. And I'm telling you, and half of you, I would bet my life savings on it, half of you are gonna go apeshit crazy that first day. I'm gonna say, I told you, slow it down, take a breath.
Back, I guess, on track on layovers, like, does everybody northbound kind of have a strategic plan? Ophir, you're not taking the layover there? Nobody's, how many of you been to Ophir? Stevie? Okay, there's not much there, right? You're not gonna be, old mining town, it's just a shack, they kind of heat up, is where the checkpoint is. You're not gonna be taking a layover there. Foreman, not gonna be taking a layover. So that's a long stretch when you leave McGrath to Ruby. That's where you're gonna start strategically, as we talked about, Ruby, Galena, Caltag, maybe all the way to Unically. And then from there on, everywhere is pretty good, as you start going Koyak, for the guys in the pro class. What's that? Elam's a pass-through, so is Shack is a pass-through as well.
Is it
It's an express, you can't take a layover there. Buckland,
Punchilla is not a layover location.
but I mean,
Whiskey Bravo.
so,
You said neither is Whiskey Bravo?
Whiskey Bravo will be,
Will
but
be,
Punchilla
okay.
won't.
what
What said for expedition, that's right.
what's that?
They're going to layover.
So yeah, just kind of start looking at how it's going to lay out in your, have a plan. Hopefully you can stick to it.
Yeah, you got, there's really not a lot of things, a couple things to be thinking about, like, they're gonna hold us in Kotzebue, so just be thinking of the pro class. We'll get held there so that everybody can kind of get to know them in that time frame, so there's gonna be a hold there regardless of when you show up there. Nome, when you get to Nome, that's the halfway point. One of the things to think about, I didn't think about this a couple times, be thinking about what you want in Nome or any of these checkpoints. I mean, whether you have a plane or you don't have a plane, having stuff at these different areas, like Nome's a big one. If you don't have someone coming up there or you don't have a plane, things to be thinking about is maybe shipping up some street clothes when you get there, because you're going to be there for essentially 2 nights, right? So bringing up some street clothes, tennis shoes. I mean, you don't want to be running around in your gear the whole time you're there. Bunny boots, I've done it. Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible to have to just run around in your different gear. So I would definitely, ship up some clothing. There is some dealers in Nome, so a lot of parts, something you might want to consider is maybe calling them up and maybe having some stuff that you know that you're going to use set aside for you. Maybe have You know, things like, you know, kind of, you know, nowadays it's not such a big deal, but high facts and skis were a big thing in the past. You know, you wear out your carbides, your, you know, things that you might change out and
Who doesn't know about DuPont IFAX? Does anybody not know?
I don't.
Look into it. What are you riding?
Players.
You can get it. Put DuPont IFAX on. Nobody in this race should. DuPont IFAX are a vestibule infused IFAX that you will wear out your track before that IFAX will wear out again. It's eliminated the ability to even worry about IFAX. Every Iron Dog team should be running them. I would assume
I
every.
think most teams.
Getting hard to find right now is certain things, but you can get them. That is like, if it is a low snow year, it don't matter. The IFAX, that's an afterthought.
Somebody said Yamaha. Is that basically?
Yamaha
They were the
first
ones that
started.
developed it.
Oh,
They developed it.
DuPont's making.
And you can get up for all the brands, I think.
Yeah, every brand has them now.
So yeah, you know, but like for instance, like, you know, if you're gonna change belts in Nome, I mean, you might as well, like I said, buy from the dealer up there, or if you know, have some stuff shipped up there, or knowing that you're gonna basically maybe potentially swap out a belt. You know, going through the villages, a couple things, like you talked about Unalakleet. When you go to Unalakleet, there's no snow there. That's something else that was like really shocking, and you hear it from a lot of people that have like photos and videos and stuff like that. Even my wife said, I didn't realize that you guys rode on no snow. But we do. There's like a lot of times, sometimes the burn's that way, sometimes Unalakleet pretty much always. There's very,
Well, it
very
snows,
little.
it goes somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not, the snow does not stick in Unalakleet because of the wind. So you're riding on ice and dirt, and it's just what it is. So you kind of get a, like I said, it's just something that, you know, again, you don't think about that until you're actually out there. It's just weird.
Just you're gonna be riding in a Tussock group. Was gonna be, you know, Tussocks, that there's a beaten down path from us and Iditarod all the years, and you're just kind of cruising down through that thing. At 80 or 90 or under.
A lot of guys take out front arms like in the burn because they're going too fast. So I mean, again, that might be someplace you might stage your front end in the graph. You know, just think of things like that.
overheating there?
You can.
Oh yeah.
You're on an expedition, right?
Yeah.
Hook up the train and tow the rest of the players. You got a radiator.
Every about 5 years there'll be like zero snow there, and you'll basically go and you have to watch your temperatures and basically just stop. And
It's craziest historically, yes, it's low snow. The last 3 years,
you've had good.
there's like this much there. The most, I mean, it's deep. You can stop. It's not. It's different weather patterns, and it's looking like we're having good snow over there right now too. So knock on wood. Hopefully it stays good.
Yeah, well, even a little bit of snow, but I mean, we get excited when there's a half inch of snow over there.
It's not dirt.
Yeah. But it makes a big difference when it comes to cooling.
Thinking about money, right? Trail cash. Cash is king out there. You're gonna want. Nick and I have probably at least, we are usually $5,000. Just depends.
They
on how you're
got a
running.
different budget than us, we don't care.
That's a piece. We'll start adding it up. You're gonna pay most of all the places you're gonna stay. You're gonna probably want cash. So you're gonna take a layover. You guys, as far as expedition, you're gonna take a layover in Pontilla. They're gonna stop in McGrath. You're gonna stop in maybe Ruby or Galena. Then you're in probably only gonna go to from the Unalakleet. So you're at least 4 stops. I'd say on average you're almost probably 200 a night at most of those places. 800, then you all of a sudden you need to buy a belt, or you rip a windshield off and you need $200 to buy a windshield, or 3, or whatever you're gonna have to. If you need the money, and I don't know, I can't. I've been there, and it's. Think of it this cash. I
You
don't
definitely want to have.
The amount of money you put into the race is huge. The amount of time you took off is huge. All the expense is huge. You're broken down in some town and your clutch is out. A clutch used in pretty good shape is $500. The tools to change it are another $500. And that is the best $1,000 you ever spent in your entire life. But cash is king, and you need cash because the guy selling you the clutch and the person loaning you the clutch puller ain't gonna accept the American Express.
I mean, one thing is Iron Dog is very well loved in the villages.
Yeah.
We are very, very welcomed in every place, and we want to keep it that way. So, you know, you want to treat everybody there, checkers and people, with respect. You'll stay, sometimes when you get into a village that doesn't have a bed and breakfast or a hotel, you're going to potentially be staying at someone's home. They open their homes up, they let you sleep in their beds or their kids' beds and kick everybody else to someone else, and you're staying there. A lot of times they won't ask for money. We always leave money. We always leave money on the table even when they say they don't want any.
They might say, yeah, if they don't want it, that's my personal, and I've always stood by. I mean, if we're staying somewhere for 6 hours, we give them $200-300. You take care of them. They're taking care of us. We're going through their town. I can't say enough about them and their support. So
It's huge.
it goes very, and that means a lot to them too. Because
Speaking of places you're staying along the way, how are you guys having any problems making reservations at this point, or do you
So-
kind of just where you land when you get in, you'll find a place to stay, or?
So that, yeah, both, a little bit of both. So sometimes you don't plan on staying at certain places. Places like Caltag and, trying to think of some other ones right offhand. There's no real like bed or breakfast or hotel though, right?
they'll take you and you show
They'll-
up there.
People, if you stop there, people are gonna take you in. That's pretty much typical, pretty much anywhere. Sometimes, you know, if you're with that big, as Larry puts it, you stay with the group, there's gonna be people when you show up. If you're way behind, maybe not, but,
Especially if you're close to one of these guys or one of the guys who are well-known, you'll be taken care of. But they will be taken care of way better than you will. I'm just saying. They'll find you a place to stay, you'll have a floor, but you're not gonna get the same treatment as these two guys.
you know,
Just know that, that's a rookie thing, so. We're not, it's not that one. You keep going, keep going.
some places, like we've stayed at White Mountain before, and we're just in the community center, you know, like in the local community center, so it's not like a real actual place to stay, so. I mean, really, if you haven't made reservations in Rome, I would highly recommend doing that. Other than that, like I said, some of this stuff is a little bit more.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, you make a
I mean,
reservation.
Nancy's pretty much the, Cuskow's, that's the only, but
Yeah,
it's still
There's a
make
couple of different-
reservations.
there's a couple options in the draft, most people,
What about Uniclean? Unique's the only one we're having trouble with right
yeah.
I know a lot of the expedition guys have always stayed there at, like Iditarod has like a, maybe Dee can.
Yeah, we stay at the, it used to be, what you call it,
The camp outside town.
no, we have a building that belonged to, no, remember, Johnson, Mitty, it was Mitty Johnson's building, and now it's, I think, the community, and it has, bedrooms, like 6 bedrooms, and it has a bath, you know, a shower and flush toilet, and the best thing it has is dryers. That's really awesome, and they cook 24/7 while you're in there. I mean, they're always bringing food in and setting it out for you. And of course, Iditarod drags it out, but they love, I mean, they can't wait for Iron Dog and Iditarod. It's the carnival comes to town.
Does Maggie not have her hotel going?
In Unicely?
Yeah.
I don't know, but, no,
I don't,
that's,
you know, that is a tough one,
That
because like,
brand's going down.
I have a personal
Yeah.
contact that I've stayed with for the
Same
last
with-
15 years there.
Same.
You may reach out
Can we get your
to,
contacts, Lee?
you may reach
Oh, you'll
out,
be going about them.
you may reach out to Kim Bergeron, and I can provide his number. He has the teams on his group deal, but he sets all that up. And I know he utilizes the cabin about 15 miles out of town, where his people have stayed for the past 4 or 5 years.
They backtrack and go all the way back up the river.
they go back upriver?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's-
go up there. There's
Or they
up
stay
Up to
there.
lodge?
to the lodge
Yeah.
up there. If there was other options, I would personally,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you backtrack back out of town, it's kind of.
Well, and then you also don't really know what anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we are, you know.
It's nice to be close to the checkpoint. I'll be honest with any of you guys, it's always,
Totally crazy question. Can we stay in the shelter cabin out of town there?
I don't think there's anything that says you can't.
No, they're open to the public.
Yeah, they're public, yeah, they'll shelter old women, you can stay at Old Women, or you can stay at the one that's,
At the
out
top,
just,
at the top of Blueberry.
Agassiz, yep, Blueberry there.
It's
I've never
not-
stayed there, but I've heard the
That's
nice.
Isn't there
That's
for
right.
sure?
That's
Try that, yeah, I've always wanted to actually go stay there.
Be it
That's
drones and all
exhibition
that.
classes. do it as a
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, you can't do it as a pro though.
Yeah, that's
layovers.
expedition class only,
Yeah.
you can stay at one of those.
So,
Or I should say, you're on the clock.
Yeah,
Stay there.
Not
but-
on that, you're on the clock if you stay.
There's some, thinking about like layovers and stuff like that, you know, just, we have a lot of flexibility with layovers now. Again, read the rules and try and figure out exactly what you can and can't do, but we do have some options that you can, you know, stop. I mean, my goal would be to not stop as, like, just, don't stop at every checkpoint just because you can. You want to try and make as minimal stops as you can, but if you need to, and for any reason, like you said, if you're having issues with getting cold or clothing or something like that, and if you need to take an hour, take an hour.
Maggie's and Unity, I just somebody.
Yeah, I sent her a text just a minute ago asking if
They
she's
just,
still
they just
doing
said
it.
Maggie's and Unity, so.
I have her phone number if you want.
Okay.
For some reason, I thought she closed down for the year or something though.
And she's only for a week.
It's up for a week. Yeah, that's for
Or actually, the pizza place. The people who own the pizza place also
I
own
thought they
rooms.
shut down.
Yeah, I did too.
Really?
they did.
They did last,
Actually,
they were
did.
closed last year, I
I
know.
heard that too.
Yeah, so.
Pizza on Earth?
Yeah. Why, it's
What do you, just to tell you, well, pro, because Expedition I go there, that Northern, Buckland, Cayenne, Selwick, they are a whole nother level of loving this race.
Yes.
I swear, there's 400 people that live in Buckland, and there is 400 people out there when you get there.
and more fish
Every-
and jello than you can.
Yeah, they are into it. That whole region up there is just, it's crazy how, it don't matter if we're in there at 2 in the morning or whatever, they'll always, they're passionate. So,
It's pretty amazing what you can arrange on Facebook too nowadays. Because as the race goes through, you see all the people on all the Iron Dog groups. So if you have like your wife at home, it was amazing what I was able to coordinate from remote places last year as the girls were doing it, just off Facebook. I'd friend somebody, message them, they say, oh yeah, I'll find them a place to stay. And they literally found them places to stay in the middle of the night. Well, how did you
She's
do it?
rolling eyes,
You had
bro.
somebody pick you up in Unity. That was, we arranged that from Galena. Off
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
I was like, people were FaceTiming them to me.
keeping on going.
Yeah, no. In Nome, just real quick, you know, you're gonna have for the pro class guys, you're gonna have a time where you can actually like inspect your sled. Use that time wisely to take a look at your sled while you're there. It's considered off the clock, just inspecting. You can't work on it, but you can inspect it. You can, you know, I would highly recommend getting in there, getting your inspection done as soon as, basically let it thaw out enough, but you want to get in there as soon as possible and look at it, because if you need to order some parts that you can't find in town, you might be able to pick up something and Gold Streak it up in time, but if you wait until like the next day or the end of the next day, you might have lost your opportunity to do that. So make sure you inspect that as soon as possible. And I think that's...
No, I think that's pretty much.
Well, I was thinking before we move on to the next thing, one thing that, a couple things is, Larry was talking about, like, you have GPS tracks from somebody. Just because you have GPS tracks doesn't mean that that's the current, you know, the current trail. So just keep that in mind. I mean, the trail obviously changes because of conditions, existing conditions from the year before. Trails are, you know, we're loosely from village to village, but some of them are pretty standard, but a lot of
Just to give you an idea, if you're past, look at this. This is me going from Shaktoolik to Koyak. That's how many different ways I've gone across there. Just to show, like, it's never the same.
Yeah.
So it give you, I mean, it can be you could be, don't, when you're out there, don't, if you have a track and be like, oh, I'm stuck to this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Follow a track. If there's a track, I'd probably go with that because it's going to change. I mean, I've gone across there 40 times and I've probably gone slightly 40 different ways. More, you know.
Yeah, so things change every year, so be aware of that. You know, a couple things, when you're out there racing, you're gonna have problems at the end of the day. When it comes to your guys, when we're talking about strategy, your checkpoints and stuff, make sure you guys are working as a team. You You know, yelling at your teammate because he made a mistake or because he wants to do something different, that isn't going to solve anything. So, you know, work as a team when we're out there.
Tensions get high. That's actually honestly
They
the
get
big
really
thing with
high.
Iron Dog teams is partners. That's a big part of it. Not getting along. It's a weird dynamic, you know, when you get stressful, you're tired, wore out. There's a lot of guys that, yeah, they just lose it, and the more calm you can stay, that's huge. Like, don't, you know, in an expedition, you're out there and there's that one guy getting stuck, it's gonna suck, but it's easier said than done. I mean, I don't have the best patience sometimes, but with Nick, I do. I know Nick and I work, it's about finding that right person. Pretty calm.
And also keep in mind that essentially everybody's going to have problems out there. It's not just you. It's not just the world against you. Everybody's having problems, so keep that in mind. That whole making up time, I can tell you from personal experience, it does not work.
It's fun.
It does not work trying to make up time. You
get
can't
this-
make up time.
You get this in your head, you're like, you'll be riding a section and it's just like, it'll drive me nuts. And it's still, you catch yourself like, this is riding crap, I'm riding slow. You get to the next checkpoint or layover and you're talking to everybody, they were all struggling with the exact same
Yep.
way. Like, there's sections and it's, just remember that everybody's dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, 2011, perfect example. It was, snow was super deep, and we were in the lead. We got past, so we were in second place, and it was super deep. And back then we couldn't get any extra fuel or anything. So what we were carrying is what we could get. So we basically were out of the throttle the whole time. We get to the next checkpoint, and the guys in front of us, of course, they had the same problem as us. So we thought that they were going to be gone. We actually made up time on them. And we weren't expecting that because we thought we were going super slow just to make sure we made it. And we made time on them. So it's like everybody's essentially going through the same thing that you're going through. So just keep that in mind. Gonna talk about start drop off sled prep.
Yeah, there was one question too that you guys had about GPSs and what we use. You will see, I personally, basically in my opinion, there's virtually two options to use as add-ons. Would either be the 700i or the 276. I like the 700i better. It processes quicker. So in processing wise, it loads a screen quicker when you're going through. It's a better unit in that regard. It does not work 10 below and colder. It's going to start freezing up on you and it quit working. So that 700i has the inReach into it, built into it. They're a little more up to date. I got to be honest, the 276. We have both of them to make that decision on what the weather's going to look like. I love this unit too. It's virtually the same size screen. It's just not touch screen. The other one's touch screen, but that'll work at 50 below. I've never had it not working. So.
You carry two of them?
Usually we carry a spare in that airplane. We'll have another door, like ours clip on a door, and I usually have both of them. And I'll be honest, 2020 was the worst. Probably the worst weather I think there's ever been in Iron Dog. And I actually dropped my GPS the night the checkpoint before and broke it. And I fortunately had another one yesterday. And otherwise I would have had no GPS the next day. So they're just like, that's be careful. I had mine, you pop it off. I used to never pull mine off the sled. Which I almost would probably go back to that because I popped it off and I stuck it in my helmet and it fell out of my helmet. And this thing just fell from like here to the ground and broke. It never worked again. It broke something loose inside, wouldn't work. And I happen to have another one. So that's something else to take care of.
Yeah. Make sure that these things kind of clip on pretty easy, and it's actually a little bit cheesy. So you want to make sure that thing's on there. I've lost my GPS multiple times, so make sure that thing's in there good.
There's a German company called TourTech. They make them for motorcycles. They're aluminum, and they lock in.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Ram mount.
There's a bunch of different ones. The other GPS you didn't talk about is the TrailTech one. Is actually becoming pretty popular. It has some features that these don't, and that is it does have buddy tracking features. They're becoming more and more popular. Quite a couple teams are doing those. So make sure your batteries are good.
So that's one thing. Like he's got the rechargeable one. If you do use this one, make sure it's good. Otherwise, I actually a lot of times will put in lithium. They're just AA battery, or 3 of them, and then I'll have a couple extra just in case you got it in the same deal. batteries are nice to have. If you got in there, your sled's not working, and you pop this off the sled, and you're gonna be hiking around with it.
Before we move to sleds, actually, one thing that oh, go ahead.
When you guys get into the villages, are you unloading a lot of things off the sleds? Is there any concerns with stuff walking off while you're sleeping?
Never had any concern with anything. We've never lost anything. No one's ever messed with our sleds or anything. I've been doing this for 22 years. So we do, like for us, we,
Where there's layover points, there's usually a checker there all the time, so.
yeah. So we've never had any,
Huh?
we've never had any issues.
Like-
I mean, our
like
sleds are-
McGrath there is.
Oh, McGrath, yeah.
Gnome, they're inside,
Yeah.
Dots, they're in, I mean, those locations outside that.
Yeah, we've never,
I never ran.
we've never run into any problems. But everybody, I mean, our sleds are, you know, it's not like we take the keys out of them or anything. I mean, they're right for the taking. We've never had any issues. So, before we move on to sleds, I did want to hit on airplanes a little bit. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of controversy with airplanes and stuff. I can tell you from personal experience, I've done it with and without airplane. You don't need an airplane to win this race. I think that if you're using the airplane, you're actually not going to win this race. So I can tell you that every year you won, you probably didn't have to use the airplane. I did the same. It can help you finish. One thing is you cannot rely on an airplane either. That's another thing. If you plan on having all your spare gear, parts and everything and expect it to be at every single checkpoint, you're going to be in a rude awakening because most of the time the planes you can't fly anyway. So there's a lot of times where you're just not getting any. And there's been, actually the last few years, we've had very little airplane use because the planes just can't go anywhere because the weather's been crappy. So you can't rely on that thing. You can't rely on it for emergencies. You can't rely on it for the race. But it is nice to have if you need it. You know, having some parts and stuff like that. So think about what you might want to have in the plane.
And I don't think Stan would not get upset saying it in one of the riders. He had some frostbite issues. Don't use the plane thinking that they have your gear and are getting to the next spot. So he wore his lighter riding boots that he could strap up and be comfortable in, know what plane access, and then he wasn't able to get his money boots on the plane. Continue to ride and frostbite super. He's someone with years of experience. Just be careful about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you do not want to rely on it. I mean, you get kind of caught up in thinking, you know, I can wear these clothes and, you know, I'm going to have a plane on the next checkpoint. Don't count on that. Do not count on that. So, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
His plane would crash.
Our plane crashed. Rip it and there won't be a lot.
Have you ever had encounters with wildlife as an issue in GK Farm?
I mean, Nick actually Nick, the year before me and him started, he hit a wolf on the Yentna.
Oh, wow.
And you'd be surprised what a wolf will do if it'll destroy your sled. It caved in the whole front end. I mean, frankly, I've hit up quite a few foxes have a tendency to run at you.
Yeah.
They're kind of just like a little speed bump. You kind
I've had a couple close encounters with moose.
yeah, moose.
Moose, because they'll get on the trail and then just run down the trail and they don't want to get off, so you got to be obviously real careful with that. Birds are another one.
Birds actually got somebody. I've had close calls with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta watch the birds. I mean, talk about ptarmigan, like around Nome, obviously out of Huntilla. Well, even that northern area, they'll go through a flock, and there's times it's come up, and I thought the ground was lifting up. There's so many of them. There's
I just wondered, because, you know, I had my first experience with gigantic bull, buffalo in a narrow part of the Vernon.
so they're stubborn.
They're stubborn.
They are super. You're gonna probably also see, buffalo bison out there. And they're different, especially if they have a young one with them. They kind of group up and they get around like their pack mentality, like they're protecting, and they don't like to move. They just flat won't move for you. We have had issues these last few years coming back. This has been more coming back. I've never had the issue going north. It was more pro guys getting moose off the trail from Huntilla to Squintna.
Yep.
We've been having such high snowpack years, and they get on that trail and they will not get off, because they know if they get off, they're dead.
We got stuck for a couple hours on a train run there.
Yeah,
At the edge of the
try to get to them and then try to find a spot you can get around. It's tough. I don't really know what to tell you on that. We lost 45 minutes one year. We had a big lead, fortunately, we could use. We followed one all the way from the steps, all the way coming back to the beaver ponds. Could not get her off the trail.
Tell you what, moose don't like that backup alarm on your snow machine.
Yeah, but when they know it's
When
like
they hear that,
they just don't want to get off that trail.
Yeah,
Get
but
off it, yeah.
a lot of times when they're ornery like that, you turn that, put in reverse,
Yeah,
and that backup alarm just drives them nuts and they run away.
try that.
Or they run at you.
They usually run away.
I've killed before at grooming, and really the only thing I found that kind of works is a railroad fusee. They don't like the sulfur smell if you're like at a standoff.
Yeah, that's just an unfortunate thing that does, I guess that does happen.
So that was a pretty good question about guns. Do you guys take guns with you at all?
When we go out training, I do. A lot of times one of us will have one, I'll be honest, but not during the race. That's more, when we go way out and run or something, I'm gonna bring them with me, just, you're in the wilderness, something to do.
All right, we're gonna start getting into snow machine prep and setups. You know, we talked about it, testing. You know, test with what you're gonna run when you're practicing. I think, or ideally, I think, you know, if you can, it's not always the, you know, if you're doing the pro class, you wanna try and keep your sled pretty fresh, not put too many miles on it, if possible. You know, if you can't have a second sled so that you can practice with a second sled, put some miles on it, set it up just like a race sled if you can. I think that's a huge part of it, so you know exactly what you're getting into when you're racing. You know, breaking in your sled, you know, I mean, everybody kind of has a little different opinion. If you're gonna, you know, if you're using a brand new sled for the race, you don't want to, you know, you don't want to show up at the starting line with a brand new sled with 0 miles on it. That's not a good idea. So you want to break them in, make sure everything's good. I don't know how many miles you guys put on your sleds. You know, we typically do over 100 miles typically.
I highly suggest, it's kind of a weird mindset, and this is like really, you always went out there and you baby it, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna run it wide open. Guess what you do as soon as the flag drops? You just pin it all the way across the leg. I'd suggest go out, break them in, get it to 100 miles, and then I hold that, I get somewhere, make sure it's gonna, you don't have that little fluke deal. You don't want to end the race over some sleds have a bug, and most of them, I'd say 99% of the sleds that are going to fail, they fail in that first 100 or 200 miles. They're going to have some sort of deal. So,
And I can tell you, like one of the players is, they tend to, I don't know if it's just a break-in mode or whatever, but the first, 100, 200 miles, they don't necessarily run that good. So just, you know, they start really coming in about 150, they start running good. So you want to kind of get into that mode before you race. You know, things to think about, you know, suspension's a big part. Again, riding with your weight. You want to, you know, try potentially, like, you might need extra heavy springs depending on how much extra weight you're carrying. This includes the expedition class. And, you know, again, try these sleds out before you take off. Have them completely loaded, like you're going to be taking off from Big Lake, because that's how it's going to be, and you don't want it to be miserable. So you want to make sure your suspension's set up. You have the right shocks set up. You know, a couple things to think about, like in the pro class, like a mirror. Most guys aren't going to have like some big mirrors on them, but some guys will make, you know, some of those like stick-on mirrors on the back, so you can even see if there's a reflection back there. Something just to think about. I don't typically do one, but I know a lot of guys that do and really like it because they can just glance down. I have a real bad habit. If I get past this, I just do this. So I've gone off the trail a lot. So sometimes that can really help. Radios help too. That's something that's really changed a lot over the years. You used to always have to look over your shoulder all the time. Now we don't. Of course, my last teammate never looked over his shoulder or never called on the radio. He just would leave.
That's think a big part of this too, as I put on here, is talking about fuel and stuff like that. And I've had a couple of people ask today, know your fuel burn, know what you're going to burn out there and what your riding habits are. I think I was telling something like from ours, when we go Galena to Caltech, it's 88 miles. We use almost every gallon of gas we have. We will get 5.5 miles to the gallon. You hold them wide open, and I would say almost all manufacturers are saying you're going to be. But that's riding habits. If you kind of know you're going to be riding at 3/4 throttle, you're probably going to be half that burn. So you'll be well over 10 miles to the gallon on almost all the ramps. But if you're guys planning on running wide open a little bit, know that, and that's a big stretch to plan accordingly for. I'd say more people have ran out of gas from Caltech to Uniclete, from Galena to Caltech than anywhere else on the trail. It's only 88 miles.
It's
a lot of people have ran out of gas. It's just something about the snow too. It's got a lot of friction in it, and you can feel it.
I think a lot of it too is it doesn't get, part of that trail does not get traveled very much at all. So what happens is you're going, it has a little crust on it. First team goes through, that crust is gone, and it's just sugar snow. It's super, and so there's just that drag, and it doesn't matter if you're, at the front or the back. And then there's years that there's been, it's weird, I don't know, it's just an area that gets a lot of snow there by Caltech.
And super cold snow.
It is, it's that super dry snow, and so you'll be pushing, I can tell you that, we carry 5 extra gallons with us, and there's been multiple years that we've still had to back off just in that less than 100 mile stretch. It's unreal. People don't believe us, because you can go out and train all day long and you can get 15 miles to the gallon, but when you're full throttle, then again, it is not a brand specific thing. They all get full throttle, and just doing that, they will just suck the fuel down and get between 5 and 7 gallons, 5 and 7 miles to the gallon. So be prepared for that, especially if you're in the pro class.
Pro tip, if you're out there, start hunting for the snow, right? Over here, you're sustaining 8,000 RPM, look at your GPS or speed up. Oh, I'm doing 88 over here, you move over here, oh, I might start doing 90 something. You can feel that, right? Just let it kind of hunt and let it go where it wants to go, and you'll find speed. And efficiency is what you're looking for, right? That's us, we're looking for the speed out of it, kind of letting it do that, but you're getting the efficiency to where you're going to start getting better fuel mileage too. So, it's kind of something that's what we're constantly kind of doing.
Really out of curiosity, do you guys have that same thing with coastal snow too? Once you get up around the tough cuts and stuff like that?
It's usually just so hard.
It blows, and it's just hard up there, so it's a totally different.
This stuff, it's a different, the Yucca, like you said, it's so sugary, and it does get wind that hits it, but it's churned, and you just get a lot of slip. It's slow. Actually, you're gonna, Ruby to Galena is always, there's a sand layer in there too, that there's a big below these big banks. And you get that grit in there, and you can feel it. It's like sandpaper through there, and it's a slow area too.
Yeah.
So those are the things you learn over the years, I guess. So, through there.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah,
of
obviously on the coast, it's kind of mentioned the snow berms. I remember 2004, the wind had whipped through there. It was a pretty heavy snow year up on the coast, and the wind had whipped through there, and that it just tunnels out, and it would make these curled wind lips that were just like, the only way I can explain it, and it would be no exaggeration, if you took those the curb stops, the concrete curb stops that are out here, and you just put them every 5 miles and then ran over it with your sled, that's exactly what it
They're
felt
5
like.
feet, not 5
Yeah,
miles.
sorry, every 5 feet. That's what it felt like.
So people that
will rip it. That year, I think everybody blew shocks. Everybody ripped off front ends.
The coast is just a weird, right? You're from the coastal area, right? You guys that haven't, it's things wind drift. They do it's like a pocket, right? There are these pocket wind drifts, and like I said, they're hard and miserable. But honestly, you could go and 24 hours later, if the wind hit it the right way, all of a sudden it's
Totally
flat. And honestly, it depends on the direction you're going to and how those wind drifts were rolling and how you're hitting them. Because right, the face, if you're going north, sometimes are worse, or if you're coming south, it just depends on which one's that quartering. It's just, it's something to take into consideration to take. That area is historically very hard on front ends, pyramidal structures, because you're just, I mean, it's brutal on them. You can start breaking stuff like, you know, just main supports of the snowmobile have a tendency to start breaking that condition if you're just pounding it. So.
I think we talked about kind of sled setup. I don't think we did one. So I mean, essentially, everybody's. It sounds like everybody's racing Polaris and Skidoo. So I think, you know, if it comes to actual setup, especially when it comes to like reinforcing anything you guys need on the Polarises, I'm more than happy to talk about what I think that it's actually required to make the race. You know, I'm not going to necessarily give you every single secret that I have, but as far like when it comes to suspension setup, because it's, you know, it takes a lot of work to do that. But I'll point anybody in the right direction and what I think you should run for springs, and I'll even help some guys with valving if they want to try and get their sled to ride better. I will definitely help out. When it comes to actually the physical things that need to happen to a player, so I will tell anybody exactly everything that I do to it to make it survive. And a lot of it is what I call insurance. I think you could take any of these machines these days, uncrate them, and you can win the race. You don't have any problems. I think you can. They have the ability to do that without doing with very little work. With studying the track and a couple things, they have the ability to do that.
That's vice versa. Obviously on the Skidoo side, reach out to me. I can help foster that. We'll probably just run it through CC. Obviously that's where all my stuff is going through. But in more than they are happy to work with you, they're ecstatic to work with Iron Dog. Obviously they're a big part of it. And I can help guide that to what, you know, like Chris said, and be honest, some guys are like, oh, they're going to think they're going to ride my sled and they're going to love it. It's like, it's the perfect thing. Well, probably most of you in here ride it here. It rides stiff,
everyone
hard.
hates
It's a riding style. It has to be more suited for how I ride. Might be more aggressive than, you know, most people. So, we can talk, you cater to what works for you, what should work for you, you know, but still getting that feedback.
And everybody likes something different. Like I said, Tyler and I's sleds are probably almost opposite. Mine is like really super soft. I have very little rebound in my shock, so it's super bouncy. And when you hit braking bumps, it'll be completely wild. But that's what I like. And almost everybody that gets on my sled will be like, "No thanks," and strictly want to give it back. So, but again, I'll help anybody and kind of get people pointed in the right direction. Like I said, especially when it comes to, like I said, most of it is what I call insurance. When it comes to bracing and different things that I think you should do. Again, most of it's not a must-have. It's a worst-case scenario. If something happens, it at least kind of helps if you hit some big hits and stuff like that to kind of help the sled hold together.
Big thing about sleds nowadays too, we talk a lot about water and this little water stuff, is a lot of these sleds nowadays cause so much negative pressure within inside them, they have a tendency to suck water in. Skidoo is notorious for that. They don't feel days of leaking through. They're sealed up pretty good. Well, now they've got so much pressure with inside of the clutches and this venting, they start sucking water through seams. So one of the most important things on a Skidoo aspect is those side panels, nose cone, all that stuff comes off, and every one of those seams is we go through and silicone all that, so you can't suck anything through those. So that's a very important thing on Skidoo. So I go through, hold it left, right, you know, both side panels, everything, just seal everything up. And a good way too is throw a flashlight, shut off shop lights in there. You know, the old days of throwing a flashlight either inside or outside with it rolled up and looking for any sort of leaks where you see any of that light coming through. Those are known areas that obviously you need to seal up. And seal it up with like 732. That's an RVT silicone. That's a good one. I go with black or water, you know, so that, you know, if you are looking for an aspect of a light in there, that's how you seal it up.
We do the same thing with ours, basically. I mean, we don't get as carried away with our side panels, but our belly pins have a tendency up by the shock and stuff. Also, our running boards, they're completely open all the way up into essentially up into the cowl. So water sprays off the ski right into the running board and shoots right into the clutches. So you want to block, even if you don't put full running board close offs, you want to put some. Typically, you want to put some right in the front of the sled, on the water sled.
Take your time with wiring, right? Most of you guys are going to be wiring in GPSs, all those, you know, extra auxiliary lights. Don't do butt connectors and just cutting in stuff and just, you know, do things maybe watertight soldering, whether you're soldering or a crimp with, you know, a heat shrink. I'm very particular. A lot of them nowadays. So our whole setup is actually I built harnesses that plug into, like we have accessory plugs. So everything that I add isn't actually tying into any of the actual physical wiring system. Is when I say I'm cutting into a wire like some guys used to. Build a harness off of that with each of your leads, and then know your sled too. If you're building off, you're putting, you know, certain lights on, certain draw off, your GPS, all these. Make sure that you know that that's within what your stator is capable of, you know, for output. And that you're not overdrawing on that.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of people, especially people that don't ask, will overdraw the system. It's very easy on our sleds. It's very easy on the Polaris's. So again, get with me, and you want to talk about auxiliary lights. Are pretty big, and almost everybody runs auxiliary lights now. Come talk to me about what I think certain lights. I've run multiple different brands, different wattages, different everything. I know exactly what they can and can't. So, and I run a lot of extra accessories too. So, come see me about that. Talk to me about that if you're one of those players. You know, a couple things also to think about, like. You know, your like just simple things like your handlebar grips. Again, this is something that you know has happened to me. Like you know, you change your grips from your practice sled to your, you know, you get on a new sled and it has a different grip on it. I run with a really loose grip when I'm riding, so my hands are constantly doing this. So if I get a grip that's like super grippy, it'll tear up my hand. So again, it's trying to run the same thing all the time. It makes a big difference. You know, windshields, you know, I mean, there's a bunch of different windshields. You know, typically you're going to want to run the highest windshield you can. Some of the higher windshields are almost a little bit too high though, because I end up having to you end up riding like this a bunch, so you got to be kind of, testing stuff out. We talked about fuel tanks. You know, I think in the pro class that, you know, you could get away without running fuel tanks. I think it would be a really horrible idea, but my very first year I ran out of gas and I had to walk. Basically, I was 10 miles from town and I had to walk. Everybody had laid over. We decided to go, so there was nobody behind us, and I ended up having to walk towards Standoff. Back then, we were allowed to get help outside of a checkpoint, so a guy came and they finally were waiting for us for however long. The guy finally came and picked me up, and we went and had to deal with the fuel, but we both ran out of fuel. Back then we used to carry like 2 extra gallons with us. That's it. We were riding 500, so they actually did pretty well, but not well enough, obviously. So, if you start running out of fuel, going slow, in the Polaris's, and I'm sure the Ski-Doos I know the Ski-Doos get phenomenal mileage if you're basically off the gas and you're just putting around. Polaris's do too. If you're outside of the power valves, they'll get great mileage. So, one of the things that I've said in every single one is a freaking slow ride beats a fast walk any day. So, definitely kind of keep an eye on your fuel.
So Ski-Doo guys, if you're below 7K, you're pretty good. You're not going to activate the power valve and this kind of stuff. That's like your efficient, right? And then all of this like sustained throttle, stabbing, you're trying to, that's where you're going to be most efficient.
Bags. Bags a big thing. You guys want to make sure that you're going to be able to carry everything in your sleds. So, again, don't wait until the night before the race to find out that all your crap does not fit in your bags. I've been guilty of that. We had a spot for our sleeping bag in the nose cone one year, and we spent probably 4 or 5 hours the night before the race trying to figure out how to get that thing in the nose cone bag. Don't do that. Make sure that your stuff, you fit everything. I'd rather have more bags and not have to use them on my sled. If you break something along the way, it's easy to throw stuff. Like my backpack is bigger than a lot of people because we just tuck them down and strap them down, and they're small. But if you need the room, if you lose a light or something goofy like that, you can throw it in your bag and strap it down and keep going real fast. So I prefer to have a little bit more storage than actually needed instead of making it super tight. You don't have to use it. See, I feel the same way with the gas cans. You don't have to fill up the gas tanks every single time you go there. Just fill up what you need.
I guess that goes into something we haven't touched on maybe is fuel and understanding your checkpoints, right? And your fuel, know that fuel burn, know what you need. Have Caltag, another long one that you need to be aware of is Koya. And you guys in this expedition as well, it's Koya to White Mountain. It's a long ways. It's hard. You do get good fuel mileage, but it has a potential. It's a long ways. I think it's over 90. It's like 92, something like that. I know I always put in fuel. Us probably over to Corman. It's still one I put fuel in.
Yeah, so I was fortunate, like I said, I used to just carry saddlebags, so my very first Iron Dog, every place that I ran out of fuel, I know now that I need to carry it, even to this day, and it's exactly what he's talking about. Over to Corman is pushing 100 miles, it's usually really soft, it's not a traveled trail, so you burn more fuel than you think, so that's a spot where you're definitely going to want extra fuel. We ran out between going into Caltag, from Galena to Caltag, that's another spot, you're going to need extra fuel. And the same one that he's talking about we ran out of gas between Koya and White Mountain our first year. So those are the spots that I used to remember those because it burned in my brain when we ran out of fuel and all those spots.
The last several years, the trail is also so over to Corman. We used to be on a cat trail out of there, right, when you cross the last Sunoco. I don't know the last time I went on that. We now go, so it's listed as 100 and something miles. It's you're gonna get on the Anoco River, and we go, and it's longer, but it's faster. You're not on that cat track, and we take the Anoco all the way what they'll call Carlson's Crossing, and that's the Carlson's. I think is 30 some miles into it. I think it's almost 5 miles longer. I think I don't know. It's like 3, but it's longer than it's listed. And then also on top of that, with that run, it's a long run, and now instead of being that slow going, good gas mileage, we're on a river like pretty wide open.
I think all I've got left, I don't think there's anything else on Sunoco, so we'll go out after this. We're going to go out and go look at our slides if you guys want. Kind of wrapped up here.
Questions?
Yeah, we'll talk about field repairs we've got field repairs, some things to be thinking about. Radiator leaks, studs in your, I carry a bag with some screws in it, like some screws with rubber washers, so you can plug a leak if needed. Putty, tie wire, duct tape, any kind of tape, electrical tape goes a long ways to like miscellaneous repairs. I've got last night a broken part that I've been riding for 27 years and broke something that I've never broke in my entire career of riding. And you'll be able to see it out on my sled when we go out there. I had to do a little field repair on my sled to make it rideable. So where I'm going with this is even though training will get you ideas of things that you might need to carry as far as tools and spare parts with you, but at the end of the day, really anything can happen. Things happen all the time. Sleds break down. It's metal and plastic. Crap can break and fatigue, and ratchet straps, are huge for tying together front ends. Being able to put sticks together, tools, and hose clamps to be able to repair a sled to get it home. Those are all little things to make it can make a really horrible day go decent. So.
End wrench and a bunch of hose clamps will fix an AM pretty good, actually.
I do that all the time. I take my big end wrenches that I carry with me, I'll box them in, and I got hose clamps that I carry with me.
You do that all the time?
I'm really good at it, unfortunately. Actually, with the new sleds, not so much, but but hose clamps. We lost a wheel one year. We lost a rear axle bolt one year. And we were able to basically just clamp the axle so it wouldn't get sucked in all the time with the hose clamp. I mean, it's just something that's simple, easy to carry, and I've used it for multiple fixes. My teammate freaking ripped his bumper and ground off last weekend, maybe, and we used this to tie the ground back together on the chassis. So, a lot of little things like that can make a big difference. Even carry a couple pieces of metal, but like I said, typically. Unless it's straight, you can't really use it. So end wrenches, multiple end wrenches can make it big. It's a great patch. You might even consider carrying A-arms potentially. Said it's one of those things that seems like they get dinged up quite a bit. So, something to think about. Let's see. Oh yeah, bungees. We kind of talked about bungees a little bit. You know, bungees, you know, we typically throw some bungees on the back of our sled, on our, you know, hold down our bags. But you can use it for all kinds of stuff. If you end up having to pull something off your sled, you can just, you know, bungee it down. If you end up blowing apart your front hood or side panels, you can bungee stuff real easy. So it's just a great tool to keep things from bouncing around and keep stuff together. So make sure you get good quality bungees. You don't want the real cheapos.
Do you guys see any of those blue ones that some of us have nowadays? The orange ones too, they're already great. Alaska Rubber has them. They're good, well below -40, and they don't get hard, right? They just stay flat. So.
Yeah, so like some of the rubber ones, that's one of the reasons why I went to the more bungee style cord most of the time, because back in the day, those cheap ones, those rubber, you would stretch them, and if it was 25 below, you take it back off, and it's still stretched. Yeah, it's still in the same spot, so it didn't really do much. So you gotta, you know, maybe even carry both, but like the Arctic grade ones are great.
Pretty impressive.
I think we'll open it up for, you know, we kind of talked about it. I think the biggest thing is safety. You know, that's obviously we all want to come home to your wives, daughters, husbands, everything. I mean, the safety should be number one. So again, I know you're racing. Some of the guys that are racing in the pro class, you know, again, we kind of talked about it. You don't want to be riding above your ability. So the biggest thing is being safe out there. Anything to add?
One thing I had thought of, I've run dogs a lot and run sling machines a lot on moose. If you see them, and I'm serious, if you see them licking their lips, they're right at the end of their fuse.
If they are going to charge, they are not going
They
to
are
run
right
away.
there. I mean, their hair stands up pretty quick and all this other stuff. But if you see them start licking their lips, they're about ready to turn and come at you.
That's good to know. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
Yeah. We've been out there quite a few times. Those moose do not like getting off the trail.
no, and
The deep
especially
snow.
spring, I've been stopped personally underneath them with crushed skis.
yeah.
I've had to run behind a tree before.
I tried.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I've only got rumors on this one, so I don't know the gist of it, but I haven't found anywhere, like on your helmet, there's a certain amount that needs to be reflective tape or certain colors or.
That's gone.
Not anymore. No, I personally, I mean, I don't have any orange. I've always, actually, I had somewhat of an orange helmet before this one, but I crashed it right before the race. I switched this one out right before the race last year, and it's what I'm riding. But I do have reflective on here, it makes a huge difference. People can see you. I think having an orange helmet is very, I think it's wise, because I mean, if someone takes a tumble, it makes it easy to see them. You know, I think it's.
I think the biggest thing is that reflective stuff is great. It's a nighttime thing, you know, as well. The orange, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's been great, but reflective wise, and a lot of these new jackets, whatever you're wearing anymore, if you're out there in Iron Dog and you're wearing a jacket, most of all of them are very, have a lot of reflective material built into them. You know.
Mine, I also like my name tag and around my number has reflective on it too, so.
Nick and I, the back even actually plug to them, but High Res is the company we use in Eagle River, and they put like our number and stuff on for our name on it, and it's all finished reflective material that,
Okay. That's what I have the same thing. So even last year when I ended up running in the ambassador class with the guys, every single one of them mentioned, you're like, man, we can really see you compared to everybody else in the group. I mean, there was five of us, and every single one had commented. They're like, man, it was so nice being able to see you. We could always just it was easy to follow you all the time because we could see you.
That goes into.
Speaking of that number, then Mark, when you said you had to have that on way before and stuff, is that something Iron Dog provides us, or I got to track down the company for this number?
They'll come with the racer packet.
I would suggest sewing it on or having somebody sew it on, right? Some guys put them on with bobby pins, and so I just don't have them like stitch the whole thing because you're gonna go through the Gore-Tex. I have somebody just like it hits the corners, so they usually go corner top in it holds it on, but you don't want to put a bunch of holes through it, right? 'Cause
Okay.
it's a vortex, as you know, right?
Yeah, and the lock, using the safety pins, I mean, we've used that for years, but they do tend to, it doesn't matter, like if you tape them, you've done all kinds of stuff, they tend to want to come off. And they'll be chasing that full race. Any other questions, general questions?
When-
Questions from, do you have any questions from?
I don't think we need to let's send it to me.
When will it send the racing packets out? When you guys?
2 weeks before? Yeah, 2 weeks before the race. We'll have them ready, send out a message, and come pick them up.
Some of all the decals, remember, shield.
It'll be pretty, be aware, because usually it's really specific with the decals. You know, decals have to be on certain sides and, you know, where they're located, so pay attention to that. Don't just open your packet and start filling it down. Yeah, okay, but it's still critical.
It is critical.
Yeah. Read the instructions.
All right, I give a hand to these guys for taking the time. They got 4 items, and unfortunately for the folks on, they're going to be able to participate. So I'm going to use these guys to do that. So I'm going to ask a question, you raise your hand and they answer. I got 4 prizes to give away. First one we'll give away is a Woody's gear bag. And I know this didn't come up, but I'm going to let people guess because I want to follow up in my closing with it. In the 5 years that we've done the helmet safety program, how many helmets do you think Iron Dog has given away?
1,500.
2,500. Close.
2,700.
Close.
3,000.
They're all high.
1,200.
23.
Give that guy. Give it to him. 2,240 helmets we've given away in the last 5 years. The next one kind of dubs into these guys, the Alaska Safe Riders, and the stuff that we've kind of collectively done together. How many safety education programs do you think that we've done in the last 5 years?
15.
6. Nope,
75.
that's high. It's close.
48.
Close.
42.
That's 42 is the answer. And that's what I can account for from Iron Dog and Safe Riders. There's probably more that those guys
There's more.
have done together.
We did 50 just last week.
Yeah, so, the ones that we've done together.
Selfless plug, if you guys
Yeah,
haven't
I was gonna
heard.
say
So
the same
Chris
thing.
and I are, Chris is the president, I'm the vice president of Alaska Safe Riders. Mike Buck is the executive director of that, so that initiative really has started to come. So we're doing a lot of collaboration with snowmobile, safety, just backcountry, motorized safety as a whole throughout the state of Alaska. If you guys get a chance, check it out, become a member. It's a great opportunity, and it helps giving back to a lot of these communities that we go to. We do these presentations in Constitute, Mike's gone all the way up to Bethel, Barrow,
all over the state.
So
Yeah, become a member. Yeah,
Become a
Shameless
member.
plug,
Just
become a
check-
member. It basically
yeah.
helps us continue to do free education.
and even out
All
here in
the-
the valley.
$200 Woody's gift certificate. What's the worst base layer to wear? So we got to determine who got that.
He raised his hand.
Okay. I can hand that back up there. And the last one for another helmet is, what day is the Safety Tech Expo?
14.
14.
That's not hand there the first. Yeah. All right.
Valentine's Day, nothing like spending it, you know.
I can't get away from
My
that.
favorite.
There's your wife's home.
There's a lot of things that have been talked about today. I know there's a ton of information. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody's time in participating in this process. Again, I'd like to thank these guys for taking their time and participating and sharing their experiences with everybody. The Dave and the tech team, you're going to see them twice more at our events. We are becoming a mainstream event. being part of this organization, whether you're in expedition class, ambassador class, or pro class, you need to be proud of the things that we're doing, because my whole mission is to give back to communities, but at the same time, have the world's richest race. So you can't believe how many people don't know we've given away almost 2,300 helmets in the last 5 years. I'm working on a program right now with Rotary that we're probably going to give 2,000 kids no float life jackets in April with Rotary. I'm working on another program with rural Alaska for small engines course potentially, where we're going to train and teach these kids how to do a trade, because it seems to be an opportunity that's dying. So these guys talked about etiquette. If when you signed up for Iron Dog, if you read your registration really well, the last paragraph is pretty clear about etiquette, professionalism, conduct yourself in a professional manner. I know it's competitive, I know your tensions flow, but as we become more mainstream, we're going to get more and more in the spotlight. So just remember, you're probably going to be on camera. I have a great saying that I tell the board all the time. They're like, "Oh, we can't do that." I said, "Yeah, they can't outrun Facebook."
It's, I can't tell you, even from you guys, you're gonna find this at Expedition, they love you in these villages, and it's pretty cool. And just, the more you can give them a little attention, and those kids are gonna come over and wanna hang out, and that's to me, is just such an important part of our race, and trying to embrace it. This is very cool for them, they don't get a lot going on out there. They look forward to this race.
They do.
It's a big part of their community.
And just remember, you're not only representing yourself, but you're representing this organization while you're out there. So it's, we don't need to give ourselves a black eye. You're basically making everybody look bad if you do it even to yourself. So
These guys talked about where you stay. Obviously, the Whiskey Bravo Pentilla thing is a little bit challenging, but I would encourage the entire expedition class. You're going to get fuel at Whiskey Bravo. It's about 10 miles to Rainy Pass. I would encourage you to stay at Rainy Pass. They've given us a discount, or given whoever's staying there a discount. The experience that you'll have there is probably, I would say, it's way better than you're going to get at Whiskey Bravo. Way better. But keep in mind that the more people that can go there, I would encourage you to stay there at that one. And from there on, it's wherever you end up. There's great places along the way. One thing we talked about Nome for a little bit. Having potentially 100 sleds coming into Nome all in the same afternoon is going to be a little bit overwhelming, I think, for the town. There's not a lot of places to stay. I heard Chris, I think, say, get your room booked now. Reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. They've got some locations for people's houses that they're going to let you stay at if you need it. I do have, for your family members that want to participate or see you in Nome and can't find a place, in about another week or two, I'll put out, I got to get past the first of the year, we'll send out a discount code for Alaska Airlines. That's good for the 20th and 21st. So you can fly in on the 20th and fly out, or you can fly in on the 21st and fly back out. It's a discount. They're going to hold the flight in the evening until 7:45. And then we'll have it's a special plane. It's not going to be it's an extra added plane. So if you want family to go, I think there's about 140 seats on a 737, something like that. It's going to hold till 7:45 departure. We'll do the halfway banquet at about 4 o'clock so that we can get everybody that needs to get to the airport to the airport. The only caveat is weather. I'll be the first time there, especially last year for the whole week. We had to charter a flight home, on Friday to make the finish. But there will be a discount code sent out from us that your family can use. It's only good for the 2 days, or 1 day. They can fly out in the morning and fly home. But Alaska Airlines has been generous enough to help us with a special flight.
And the family comes to the banquet too?
They can. Yep.
As an aside, I want to jump in on that. Hi, my name's Jessica Farley. I own Oxford Suites in Nome, and so usually sponsor one rural team. I have one house left.
There you are.
And we usually just like take care of people, but I can't tell you how I get these desperate phone calls every year from racers who just made it into Nome, and the family's flying last minute, and there's absolutely nowhere for them to go. And we had a hotel burn down last year, so it's like even worse. So please make your reservations right now. There's some good places on Airbnb left. Aurora is gonna be good, the Dredge number 7 is gonna be good. The only place I would have told you not to stay burned down.
I stayed in Nome, I got my first meeting.
And the whole reason for this Alaska Airlines request for me is to help this situation known for the lack of hotel rooms. So you fly up and fly back in the same weather. And we had a huge economic boom last year with 100 of us stuck there for a week.
And when you guys are really desperate, I'll put you on the floor. Okay.
Again, thank you, everybody. Hopefully today was helpful, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. I got like a roll of face paint for HT.
Got the lights on my head.
What'd you guys do, trade? Because it was off my mind.